Kelsey is swinging for the fences.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. We've been getting numerous 2026 basketball recruiting updates over the past week, so I felt like it was a good time to sort of bring those all together for an episode. We're going to discuss a potential package deal, maybe, with elite prospects. The Cardinals are finalizing and scheduling official visits with elite players all throughout the summer. We'll identify some new names that you should potentially look out for and much more on this jam-packed recruiting episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. We begin with a potential package deal. I say that, of course, with a question mark at the end because although nothing has been said about a package deal, 3 players are likely going to be visiting Louisville at the same time. 3 players from the DMV area. One of them you already know. That is elite combo guard Jordan Smith, 6'2" guard, ranked as the 4th best player according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. Well, in an article from Travis Branham of 24/7 Sports, he was updating the recruiting of Qayden Samuels. I think his name is pronounced Qayden. It's Qayden. I thought I saw on a video the PA announcer said Qayden, so I apologize if that is incorrect. But in that article, I thought it was pretty interesting. He got a quote from Samuels that basically said that he doesn't know when, but Samuels, Jordan Smith, and Samuels' high school teammate Prince-Alexander Moody would all be visiting the University of Louisville. Now, he admitted that he didn't really know much about the Cardinals program, although, Pat Kelsey has been to his school at least once. He plays for Bishop McNamara in District Heights, Maryland. He and Prince-Alexander are high school teammates, and Jordan Smith plays for Paul VI Catholic, which is in Fairfax, Virginia, the school where former Cardinal VJ King played before coming to the Derby City. So 3 players that, you would assume are friends from the DMV area deciding to take a joint official visit together. Now, worth noting that Jordan Smith has already officially visited Louisville back in late October. He is one of the top guard prospects on the board for the Cardinals, and seeing that he is potentially going to make another visit to Louisville makes you feel pretty decently encouraged. Now, a couple things. First, until the player gets onto campus, things change all the time. So planning a visit and actually getting to that visit are 2 different things. Number 2, there isn't a set schedule on when he's going to be here. Samuels mentioned it could potentially be after the Peach Jam, after the Nike EYBL circuit, which would be around the late summer, which would make some sense. But it would be huge if you could get Smith, Samuels, and Moody onto campus at the same time. Let's give a little bit of an update on these recruitments. Jordan Smith had an up and down weekend, the Nike EYBL event in Memphis, but late in one of the games, he absolutely took over. Despite being 6'2", 6'3", he plays larger than that size because he's just so strong and is able to just out physical his opponents. 6'2", 200 pounds is what he's listed at. In terms of the schools getting involved, it doesn't really have much listed at the moment. I would imagine that Duke is definitely involved with this one. Got offered by Darian DeVries with Indiana back just a couple weeks ago. Louisville and Duke are the two teams that I think he has officially visited. I think the only two teams that he has visited for an unofficial. I know that Mark Pope has visited him a couple of times, so you'll look out for Kentucky in this situation. But Jordan Smith, I don't know where he ranks on the priority list, but the Cardinals are, of course, going after a bunch of elite prospects. But if one thing is crystal clear, Pat Kelsey wants at least one elite level guard from this class. He got Michael Brown Jr. in 2025, and we discussed how he could become a trendsetter for the Cardinals moving forward. And that's because Louisville is going after a handful of elite guards, the top guards in the class. Now they are going after top forwards as well. Tyron Stokes, just a heads up, won't be talked about in this show. We talked about him a couple of times over the past couple of months. So when we get some more information on the Stokes recruitment, we will, of course, deliver that news. But a lot of this show is going to be centered around guard play. But speaking of guard play, we now go to Qayden Samuels, who at 6'5" can play the guard, small forward/wing combo. Also 200 pounds, plays for Bishop McNamara, one of the best pure scorers in the country. One of the top scorers in the Nike EYBL. He's receiving a ton of interest from Alabama, Villanova, and others. He has a 6'11" wingspan, so it's hard to be able to alter his shots because he has a high release point. And with his ability to get to the rim, with that improving, he's becoming a complete three-level scorer. And just go watch his tape. Lefty with a nice jump shot that, when he gets to his spots, it's almost impossible to stop him. Extremely crafty. There's just so much to be said about his skill set that he brings to the table. It is, he's one of the most advanced scorers in this class for a reason in terms of creating your own offense. There aren't many players in the class that can do it better than Qayden Samuels can. So whether it is getting to the rim and finishing through contact, if he's able to sort of refine his finishing, I think he's going to be, heck, you'd be talking about a lottery pick in 2026. Samuels is, by the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, the 20th best prospect, 8th best player at the position, and number 1 player in the state of Maryland. But also included in this conversation is Qayden's high school teammate, Prince-Alexander Moody, a 6'4" combo guard. He weighs 180 pounds. He's a little bit slept on at the moment. 122nd ranked prospect in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. 11th best combo guard and the 4th best player in the state of Maryland. Gets overlooked a little bit because of who he's playing with. But when you watch him play, the willingness as a passer, immediately the vision on the court, especially in the half court, where he's able to put the ball on the floor, get to the rim, but also wrap around and kick the ball out to someone, whether it's in the corner, at the elbow. He does a great job of finding teammates. The shooting upside is there. He had 20 points in the, I think it's the City of Palms is what it's called, the Holiday Invitational down in Florida. He had 20 points against the reigning Kentucky state champion Great Crossing Warhawks, who had Malachi Moreno and a couple of other players on that team. I don't know that Louisville has offered yet. I can't seem to find where they have offered. He just scheduled an official visit to Indiana. So a couple of teams getting involved here. Outside of Indiana, we're still waiting to see if he's or how much his recruitment is going to blow up. He has been a player that has been identified as a standout from the last recruiting tournament over the past weekend. So I would imagine that when players watch Qayden Samuels, they're going to watch Prince-Alexander Moody too. I don't know if these three are going to form a package deal or not, or if two of them are going to form a package deal. Of course, I said package deal because the three have decided to make an official visit to the same place at the same time. And I think that that's pretty significant to bring up. So, I mean, if Louisville were to hypothetically come out of this recruiting class with Jordan Smith and Qayden Samuels, I mean, wow, talking about elite haul that the Cardinals would be bringing in. But those aren't the only players that the Cardinals are going after that we got some recruiting updates on. Two players that you already have heard about, we've heard a little bit more on. We'll give some insight into Talon Kenny scheduling an official visit to Louisville and what's going on with Deron Rippey Jr. We'll discuss when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, the NBA Conference Finals are in full swing now, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win large. Game one of the Eastern Conference Finals begins tonight between the Indiana Pacers taking on the New York Knicks up in Madison Square Garden. I am going with a 3-leg same-game parlay here, guys. Now, of course, do your own research. This is just what I'm going with. Do your own research and see if this makes sense for you. But I'm going to go with the Pacers spread of plus 4.5. It's minus 110 currently. I'm going to go with that because, well, the Pacers played really well against Cleveland, and I just feel like with the level of play Tyrese Halliburton is playing at, I like the Pacers in this, and that's why I'm going with Halliburton 15-plus points at minus 265 odds. A safer option, but still, I think that Halliburton excels on the brightest stage and kind of continuing along from his great play in the semifinals. I'm going with Mikal Bridges for 15-plus points for the Knicks, minus 192. I think that he's going to be a player that has a great performance. So Pacers spread, Halliburton and Mikal Bridges, both 15-plus points. Again, do your research, but if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Continuing on along in this 2026 basketball recruiting edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. We just talked about the 3 prospects from the DMV, 2 of them that you probably hadn't heard of before outside of Jordan Smith. Well, these 2 are going to be ones that you have heard of if you follow high school recruiting. The first one is Taylen Kenny, the Kentucky native, played for Newport High School up around the Cincinnati area for a couple of years, and then he joined the Overtime Elite League down in Atlanta, and since then his stock has blown up. He is a top 15 player in the class. This past season for the Overtime Elite, playing for RWE, 20.1 points a game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2.3 steals on 56% shooting and 33% from 3. If you look at what he did on the Adidas 3 SSB circuit, which he is one of the best prospects on the Adidas circuit, he's averaging 20.3 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.3 assists per game for the Wildcat Select team. Those stats courtesy of Louisville's Sports Illustrated publisher, Matt McGavick. Talon Kenny, according to League Ready's Sam Kaiser, he is scheduling an official visit to Louisville for June 5th. Now, he is currently in Dubai playing with the Overtime Elite. He has an Adidas, I think, camp or circuit in Italy. Following that, once he gets back to the United States, he's going right to the Derby City to check the Louisville Cardinals out on an official visit. Now, Talon Kenny, I would imagine, is one of the top priorities at guard. The guy is just a complete winner, a complete leader. I got to watch him play a couple games that he played as a sophomore when I was announcing games at the King of the Bluegrass, and he's just a guy that nobody can stay in front of. Makes everyone around him better, elevates the level of play across, the rest of his team. 3-level scorer, can get downhill at will, and just a crafty player, man. It's just hard to stay in front of him. He is must watch when he is on the floor, can just fill up the stat sheet. Of course, the team that I worry about here in this sweepstakes is Kentucky. He is a Kentucky kid. He did mention that, of course, I'm paraphrasing here when talking about Kentucky in a recent recruiting article, saying that, people in Kentucky grow up to want to play for Kentucky. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but I know that Pat Kelsey's looking to sort of get a large recruiting win for an in-state player. And Taylen Kenny could be one of those guys. I imagine Louisville's going to, put the full court press on Talon Kenny because he is that good. I know that he's ranked as the number 4 point guard and the number 16 ranked prospect according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, but I just don't think that there are 10 better players in the country than Talon Kenny. I'm not sure that there are 3 better point guards in the country than Talon Kenny. That's how high profile of a recruit this guy is. He's going to be a player that you can build around. And of course, like I said, sort of reminds me a little bit of Michael Brown Jr., the way that nobody can stay in front of him. He's extremely shifty. Kenny is one of those players that can finish through contact. No shot inside of the half court that he can't hit. Just a really good player. And he's scheduling that official visit to Louisville on June 5th, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks. Speaking of players that other guys can't stay in front of, Deron Rippey Jr., also on the Adidas 3 SSB circuit, family friends of Russ Smith. He gave a little bit of an update into his recruitment. He hasn't scheduled any visits just yet, but he's waiting till after the he's waiting probably for the fall to make these. He's wanting to make a decision before his senior season starts. Bama, NC State, Rutgers, Virginia, Arkansas, and Syracuse, the other teams that are recruiting him the hardest at the moment outside of Louisville. The 19th best prospect in the country, according to 24/7 Sports Composite, 6'2" guard from Blair Academy up in New Jersey. This is a guy that, I would love to see join Louisville because he's got that connection to the Cardinals, but also, just overall, the athleticism, the ability to play above the rim, the speed, the two-way potential. Rippy is another player that you can build your identity around. I think he fits what Pat Kelsey is looking for out of guard play. Deron Rippey did mention that he liked how Chucky Hepburn was utilized on both ends of the floor. And Rippey is one of those point of attack defenders. And that is really encouraging to hear, guys, because in the modern AAU level, the style of play, defense seems to be optional at times. The players that the Cardinals are going after, you can see the defensive upside, the potential. You can see the attention to detail on that end of the floor. And I think that that's what Pat Kelsey is going for. Deron Rippey he's elite. Again, another one of those players that I just find it hard to believe that there are 18 better players than the 6'2" guard right now. And the Cardinals are making it clear as hey, look, we are swinging for the fences. We are going all in. We want at least 1, potentially 2 elite level guards. Because with the current roster, Pat Kelsey's not afraid to run 3-guard lineups. He's not afraid to put multiple ball handlers on the floor. I think I look back to James Harden and Chris Paul sort of creating this movement where you can play 2 point guards on the court at the same time as long as their skill sets benefit one another. And you can put multiple of these point guards on this list on the floor at the same time, and they're going to be able to benefit. That's just the way that I see it. Overall, I'm not going to sit here and say that, yeah, I would rather have this player over that player. I think that Mikel's situation was different because I truly believe that he is the number one point guard. I know that the rankings, some of them support that, some of them don't. I really don't care. I think Mikel Brown Jr. was clearly the best prospect that the Cardinals were recruiting in the 2025 class at the guard spot. Now it's sort of hard to tell. It depends on really who you can get to commit. I think it's one of those where the Cardinals are going to prioritize all of these players, and whoever commits first, I would imagine that's likely who they're going to go with, whether it's Jordan Smith, Taylen Kenny, Deron Rippey Jr., other players, one that we will mention here in just one moment. The list goes on. And of course, like I said, positionless basketball, you can bring in multiple of these players. But do you have the NIL budget to do so? Can you go out and get these players and also field a competitive roster with veterans and incoming transfers, so on and so forth? Not to mention Tyron Stokes. Do you have the NIL budget to go out and get Stokes and then go out and get 2 elite guards? I'm not sure. Maybe. That's assuming that you get Stokes. If you don't, do you just kind of go all in on the guard play? Or what about the front court guys that you're going after? So it's going to be interesting to see how Pat Kelsey navigates this recruiting cycle. But there is one player that apparently Louisville is standing out with amongst other schools, and that player is, stop me if you've heard this before, another elite level prospect. We'll tell you who it is when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the show. Card Nation, also want to take the time, as always, to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked on Louisville is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Just a couple days ago, there was a new name that had surfaced, and Louisville was linked to this name as being a team that is standing out for this player, along with Alabama, Texas, Auburn, Baylor, and the Cardinals. That is 5-star prospect Dylan Mingo. Ranked as the 9th best player according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's the 3rd best player according to 24/7 Sports. Number 1 point guard according to On3, but a top 10 player nonetheless. 6'5" point guard from Glen Head, New York, plays for Long Island Lutheran. He's a player that has been dominating early on the EYBL side of things. He got On3's MVP honors for the EYBL circuit in Memphis just recently. He is looking to set visits after the AAU season, and with Louisville standing out, the next step in the process is getting a visit scheduled for Mingo, because, I mean, there is a chance, currently sitting at number 9, it would not surprise me at all if he ends up as a top 5 player. He's not like super flashy. He doesn't have a ton of speed. It doesn't look like he's got a huge amount of burst, but at 6'5", with his wingspan, with his size, he's just a walking mismatch. If you are as tall as him and comparable with the frame, then chances are you're not going to be able to stay in front of him. And if you're smaller than Dylan Mingo, then he's going to exploit that mismatch, whether it's creating his own shot from the perimeter or taking it to the basket, just smooth with the ball in his hands. Just not really. I just don't think that there are many players that can check him one-on-one. He had 31 points and 10 rebounds recently in a performance on the EYBL circuit. And he also could end up being the best on-ball defender in this class. At 6'5", I think there's the versatility to be switchable on defense, guarding the 1 through the 3, and maybe even the 4, depending on certain rotations, but currently listed at 180 pounds, just completely ready to go to the college ranks and produce. He has a willingness to attack the glass and rebound at an extremely high level on the EYBL circuit, averaging over 7 rebounds per game. I want to see the facilitating ability. Like, I want to see how he operates as a floor general. Just with high school recruiting, a lot of what you see are mixtapes. I want to see like full game footage of how he operates as a lead guard that facilitates the basketball. I haven't seen that yet. He averages like 3.3 or 3.5 assists. So even then at 6'5" in positionless basketball, you don't technically need him to be like a Trae Young level guy, Ja Morant, where he's averaging double-digit assists. But if he can set up his teammates, I think that he's going to unlock a new potential for his game and, of course, a potential top 5 prospect. And with that NBA size at the point guard level, with the 3-level scoring potential, the gravity in the half court, I mean, this guy has it all. There's really not one aspect of his game that I think truly lacks. He shows the willingness to attack the mid-range. Like, Dylan Mingo is elite. And if there is like one guard on this that might have the highest ceiling, is it Mingo? I think Mingo has the highest floor. The ceiling is there as well if he becomes a knockdown three-point shooter. I think maybe the highest ceiling is a guy like Kenny or Rippy. Jordan Smith also has a high floor. But talking about a player that's going to be able to come in right away and produce, I think that Dylan Mingo is that guy. So nice to see Louisville getting listed as a team that stands out. Of course, that isn't something that's going to hold too much weight on the recruiting trail unless you end up getting that visit. And we'll see how Pat Kelsey and company prioritize Mingo. Who do they prioritize? I think that Tyron Stokes is probably prospect 1A because he is a Louisville native. He's the number 1 player in the class. I want to see what that priority list, what the order looks like for the guards. Is there a certain order in which they would rather bring these players in, or is it sort of first come, first serve, that mentality that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago? I probably subscribe to the latter mentality. I think that Pat Kelsey's fine with any of these guys. That's why he's been recruiting them for many months now. So I think it's going to be first come, first serve, but we'll see how Talon Kenny's official visit goes. We'll see how other official visits get scheduled. Do new names pop up? Do list cuts happen? We'll see. But one thing's for certain, coffee is for closers, and I hope that Pat Kelsey has a good intake of caffeine this summer, or if he's a decaf guy, no shame in that either. You probably should be, but hey, I'm a caffeine guy myself. But that's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here very soon.